The story begins with Ichino, who faced many challenges during his childhood. His friend Hanabi bullied him for as long as he could remember, turning insults into casual observations that he somehow just accepted. Even landing in a medical facility from stress didn't make her feel better. She sat by his bedside, calling him worthless and a failure of a significant other. Still, she wouldn't end thighs with him. She said he is too nice, and she is not going to waste a perfectly good doormat. That's when Ichino snapped. He told her they should end the relationship. Hanabi was shocked. Her mind briefly shut down. It wasn't always this bad. Or maybe it was, and Ichino simply took a while to realize. In the past, he had been playing in the sand, minding his own business. When Hanabi wandered over and asked if he was making an elephant, he replied that he was. And then she just stared at him. No expression, just staring. Everyone thought she was super nice, so she kept playing with him. And he began to wonder if he was the weird one. He even apologized, even though he wasn't sure why. That pretty much set the tone for the rest of his life. Hanabi would throw insults at him and he'd just take it. She made him take notes for her and even forced him to be her boyfriend during junior high. And if he didn't text her back quickly enough, he'd be called inconsiderate, heartless, the worst. Then came the high school years. One day she texted him ordering him to meet her and her friends at the station. His stomach was already churning and he thought about bailing, but he knew how that would end. So like a man with no survival instincts, he grabbed his umbrella and went. She texted again, "Be there in 5 minutes." He pointed out it was raining, which turned out to be a huge mistake. She hit him with the guilt trip of the century, making it sound like he was personally trying to give her pneumonia. Of course, she added the classic, "No one else cares about you," for good measure. So off he went, running through the downpour like a protagonist in a tragic love story, except way less cool. When he arrived, expecting some grand emergency, he found her eating with her friends indoors. He texted to say he'd arrived, but she just told him he took too long and had to wait outside in the rain. Turns out he wasn't just standing there like an idiot. He was a part of a bet. Hanabi and her friends have been gambling on whether or not he'd actually wait that long. Spoiler, he did. When she finally came out, she laughed at how waterlogged he was, comparing his hair to a wet mop, as if it were all just a fun joke. In front of everyone, she casually declared that he'd do anything she said. For the first time, he felt his stomach drop. He realized he should have left ages ago, maybe even years ago. When he finally told her they were done, she short-circuited again. Fast forward to the medical facility, and there she was, still in shock. She climbed onto his bed, acting like he had no right to end the relationship. "Breaking up with me? In the first place, you have no right to decide that," she exclaimed, going full dramatic mode, claiming no one else would ever date a loser like him. Maybe she was right, but for the first time in his life, Ichino truly didn't care. Whether he ended up alone forever or not, one thing was certain. He was finally set free. Hanabi was pushed out of his clinic room as Ichino asked her if she was happy, now that she was rid of her ineffectual significant other. He shut the door behind her. Hanabi pounded on the door, demanding an apology. A nurse came over and told her to quiet down because it was a medical facility. Hanabi apologized, saying they had a fight and it was her fault for losing her temper when Ichino got sick. She said she was leaving now and bowed an apology for causing a scene. As she walked away, she thought about how socialites with good looks are always in high demand. She texted Ichino saying she was getting irritated and that he should apologize to her. She tried to manipulate him again, saying he had no other friends. He would be all alone. She even scolded him for reading her messages, but this time he blocked her, realizing she twisted everything to make herself a victim. Back in his clinic bed, Ichino remembered how Hanabi used to bully him about his looks when they were kids. She'd asked if he had ever looked in a mirror, saying that if she had a face like his, she'd never show it to anyone because people would make fun of her. She suggested he grow his hair out to cover his face. Ichino had lay in bed, thinking about how all of Hanabi's words had crushed his self-esteem. Because of her, he had never understood his own worth. But now he decided to cut his hair after leaving the medical facility. That night, he finally fell asleep, feeling free. After 13 long years, his toxic relationship with Hanabi was officially over. When he got back to school, the reaction was immediate. The girls went wild. Ichino looked incredible, and at first no one even recognized him. They thought he was a new student. Girls were raving about his silky hair and sharp eyes, saying he was their type. Overwhelmed by all the attention, Ichino was unsure how to respond. His friend Haruta laughed and told him that people were talking about him. It was the first time in his life someone had told him he looked good. Haruta pointed out that Ichino used to have bangs that hid his face, and now that it was visible, he seemed like a totally different person. They told him he looked way better without the bangs and that they never realized their class had such a handsome guy. Haruta asked why he decided to change his look now. Ichino joked that he just felt like mixing things up, saying he looked much better this way, and Ichino thanked him, feeling genuinely happy. Then he noticed 3 girls crying while looking at him, which puzzled him. Haruta laughed and said there was still a lot he needed to learn. Ichino apologized for making the class atmosphere awkward by isolating himself for so long. He shared that he wanted to talk more with people and hoped to get along with everyone. Later at lunch, they all sat together. Haruta admitted he never thought Ichino could hold a normal conversation, saying that if they had known, they would have hung out with him sooner. Ichino apologized again for being so withdrawn and said he was happy to be chatting with them now. Haruta told him he was kind and good-looking. Ichino just smiled, saying his personality and looks were nothing special. But that smile drove the girls wild. Haruta laughs, calling his look God-gifted, and warns him not to smile too much or he might create a stir. Ichino finding it amusing and laughs, which makes the girls swoon even more. Suddenly, an irate Hanabi appears. Ichino realizes she's genuinely upset. He doesn't care if it's because he ignored her or due to their breakup. It's no longer his concern. He attempts to walk away, but she blocks his path. He recalls how Hanabi used to smugly declare that since she was the most beautiful girl in school, it would be scandalous if anyone discovered they were dating. She believed she was far too good for him and didn't want anyone doubting her choices. So she made him promise to keep it a secret. Haruta asks Ichino if he knows her, and he simply replies that he's never seen her before, then walks off. Hanabi storms away, furious at being completely dismissed. Ichino finishes his math homework early and realizes he has 15 minutes to kill. His thoughts briefly wander back to his last encounter with Hanabi. She's probably still angry somewhere, but honestly, he doesn't care. As he looks around, trying to figure out how to pass the time, he spots a girl with glasses sitting nearby, engrossed in a book. A sudden gust of wind blows something out of her book, and without thinking, Ichino picks it up and hands it back to her. She thanks him, and he casually replies, "No problem." However, she seems a bit surprised, and that's when it dawns on him. This is the first time they've ever talked. Hanabi used to drill into him that no girl would ever like him. She claimed she was only dating him out of pity, as if she was doing him a huge favor. Because of her, Ichino never really learned how to interact with girls on his own. He always thought he would just make things awkward, so he avoided it for years. Hanabi was practically the only girl he conversed with, and even those chats felt more like one-sided lectures. Now, standing there, Ichino confesses to the girl that he's never really tried to make friends before and apologizes if he made her feel uncomfortable. To his surprise, she blushes and reassures him that everything's fine. She even introduces herself, hoping they can get along. Ichino already knows who she is, and when he says so, she smiles, happy that they finally talked. Later, Yukishiro teases him how everyone has been fawning over him since he cut his hair. Ichino just shrugs it off, saying people will get over it soon enough, like they do with anything rare. Yuki laughs and calls him funny. Talking to her feels so different from talking to Hanabi. With Yuki, he doesn't have to overthink everything or worry about saying the wrong thing. He can just be himself, which is a nice change of pace. She mentions how she always wanted to talk to him because she noticed him taking care of the flowers and watering the plants after school. She thought he seemed like a kind person. Ichino brushes it off, saying he was just killing time while waiting for Hanabi and that he's not as kind as she thinks. Yuki laughs and hands him her book, joking that he's going to be super popular now. Later, Ichino heads to an arcade, tries his luck at a claw machine, and fails miserably. Instead, he decides to buy some food. Everywhere he goes, girls seem to flock to him, which still feels pretty surreal. He sits down to eat and realizes that now that he's broken up with Hanabi, he doesn't have to deal with her unceasing messages anymore. No more scolding for not replying quickly enough. Still, his heart races every time his phone rings. But he tells himself it will fade with time. She's never going to text him again. On the train ride home, he reflects on his day and realizes it was actually fun. School, the conversations with Yuki, hanging out with his classmates, it all felt important. He used to avoid people because of the things Hanabi drilled into his head, but now he feels ready to change. For the first time in years, he decides he wants to make as many friends as possible. As he walks home, he spots Hanabi on her phone. The moment she notices him, she quickly hides it behind her back and greets him as if nothing has changed. She starts complaining about how long he took, frustrated that she had to wait 2 whole hours for him. She reminds him as if he forgot that she taught him to take a different route whenever he wanted. Now she demands to know what he was thinking when he decided to break a rule. Ichino doesn't respond and tries to walk past her, but she blocks his way. She can't believe he's ignoring her. Frustrated, he finally acknowledges her, but only to ask what she wants. She raises her voice, angry about how long she waited for him. It's just another attempt to guilt-trip him, something she always did to force an apology from him. Without warning, her frustration shifts to his classmates. She rants about them, somehow tying it back to how they abandoned him, acting as if Ichino should have predicted her reaction, like he's responsible for how she feels. Annoyed, he questions whether she's seriously wasted 2 hours just to say all this. His indifference only makes her angrier, but he doesn't care. He states one final time that they're strangers now and that her behavior is just irritating. Ichino confirms that he's really breaking up with her, which makes Hanabi visibly upset. She warns him that his life won't be good without her, but he doesn't waver. He tells her that when they were together, he was in a miserable state. Frustrated, Hanabi grabs his arm and calls him a fool for getting carried away just because he had fun for a single day. She insists that this is his worst side, claiming that the people drawn to him only for his looks are worthless and that he's too blind to see it. Then she demands to know how he plans to live without her, reminding him that there's no one else he can talk to like this. But Ichino disagrees. The classmates he spent the whole day with weren't anything like how Hanabi described. She doesn't have the power to decide who he spends time with anymore because between them, it's over. Hanabi snaps and says he's incapable of doing things on his own and always needs someone to guide him. She demands that he apologize, claiming that his cold attitude frustrates her. She's used to it, she says, and even claims that it takes a big heart to forgive him, telling him to apologize properly. But the more she talks, the stronger Ichino's resolve becomes. He refuses, making it clear that he doesn't need her in his life. Hanabi is astonished and gets angry, insisting that she's the one who wants to end the relationship. But Ichino points out that they're already done, so it doesn't even matter. She shouts that she doesn't approve of this, but Ichino knows tired of the back and forth. He reminds her that she was always the one who talked about breaking up. Now that it's finally happening, he's had enough. He shoves her aside and tells her to leave. Hanabi storms off in one direction while Ichino walks the other way. He sighs in relief, thinking she's finally accepted that it's over. Days have gone by since Ichino last spoke with Hanabi at the park, and he is enjoying the tranquility that his life has brought him. Even though things have been peaceful, he still runs into Hanabi after school. No matter how much he tries to ignore her, she always seems to show up in front of him. Initially, he thinks it's a relief that she isn't talking to him, but then he recalls all the times she made him wait outside her house for random reasons. Whether it was fixing her hair or watching a favorite TV show, she always found a way to keep him standing there. Now, he arrives at the station earlier than usual, and suddenly realizes that she might have been making him wait on purpose. That's when he spots her with a second-year student, who happens to be the star of the track team. Their interaction suggests they are dating. The guy playfully asks Hanabi how much she loves him in a sweet tone. She responds that she loves him even more, teasing that he sounds like he's comparing her to someone else. Hanabi then jokes about casting a spell on him so that he only thinks of her. He calls her cute and vows to never look at another girl again. Ichino, watching from a distance, thinks the guy should definitely look at other people. He resolves to take an earlier train the next day to avoid running into them. 2 days later, despite his plan, Ichino sees them on the train. He wonders why they weren't there yesterday when he tried to dodge them. It's starting to feel too deliberate to be just a coincidence. He begins to suspect that Hanabi wants him to see her with her new boyfriend, almost as if she's trying to make a statement. Ichino brushes it off, pretending not to care, which only seems to annoy Hanabi more. The following day, he greets his classmates as usual, but for some reason he feels exhausted, likely due to what he witnessed yesterday. He tells himself to shake it off and focus. The first period is PE, and Ichino isn't particularly excited about it. The gym teacher announces that they will be determining the relay race order for the upcoming sports festival. The boys get really excited knowing that the fastest runner will be the anchor and the second fastest will take the second position. Apparently being in one of those spots makes you popular with the girls. So everyone suddenly feels super motivated. Watching everyone so pumped up, Ichino realizes how competitive they are. He's never really tested his own speed because every year he just aimed for an average performance. He doesn't even know how fast he really is. The only time he ever tried running seriously was in kindergarten when he won first place in a race and got a sticker as a prize. But that moment didn't last long. Hanabi quickly ripped the sticker off him, saying she didn't like how he looked when he ran. Apparently he was too fast, like some kind of racehorse, and that wasn't cool. Since then, Ichino has made it a habit to slow himself down on purpose. Every year when the sports festival came around, Hanabi would remind him to take it easy, because she hated not being the center of attention. He was sure that if he ever stole the spotlight from her, she'd hate him for it. But now Ichino doesn't care about that anymore. He's tired of staying in the background. He just wants to be normal like everyone else. So this time, he decides not to hold back. When it's his group's turn, they all line up at the starting line. As soon as the race starts, Ichino takes off at full speed. And wow, this feels way too easy. He doesn't have to check his surroundings or adjust his pace. He just runs. By the time he crosses the finish line, he turns around to see how everyone else is doing, and the others are way behind him. The whole class is in shock. Even the gym teacher looks like he just saw a ghost. Ichino is fast, record-breakingly fast. He's shocked to realize just how quick he actually is. His classmates are beyond hyped, immediately saying that with him on their team, victory in the relay race is practically guaranteed. If Ichino, the guy who can casually break records, runs as the anchor, their class will be unstoppable. And let's be real, the stakes are high. The winning class gets unshackled dessert coupons from the cafeteria, which for a bunch of hungry students is basically a golden ticket. Everyone is ready to taste sweet victory, literally. But Ichino is still in disbelief and tries to downplay it, thinking maybe his run was just a fluke. He's not even in a sports club, so it's not like he has trained for this. He apologizes, saying he might not be the best choice for anchor, which immediately sends his classmates into a panic. Some of them actually grab onto his legs, as if he's about to board a spaceship and never return. Seeing how desperate they are, Ichino figures there's no point in refusing anymore. He agrees to be the anchor, but with a disclaimer. He can't guarantee a win. If they're fine with that, he'll do his best. The class erupts in cheers. They're way too excited about this. For the first time, Ichino felt important. People genuinely want him on their team, and that feeling is kind of nice. They even joke that he's such a good guy that everyone is falling for him, and the girls can't stop gushing about how ridiculously cool he is. Fast runner, decent guy, good looking, it's like he just stepped out of some sports anime and they're all swooning over him. It's hilarious because just a few days ago he was basically a loner. Now he's surrounded by people and Ichino can't help but notice how much better his life has gotten since breaking up with Hanabi. It's almost comical how things turned around.